Well, hello everyone, it's K. Elmer here, and this video is on hydrogen. More specifically, how to increase your intake of hydrogen, or H2 as you might also call it. This is a video that was requested by one of the viewers of my last video. Wanted to know a little bit more about it, so let's just jump right in. First things first, the disclaimer. So, hey, number one, nothing I say ever is medical advice, especially in any video. This is not a product endorsement. I am going to list a lot of different products today, and I am not endorsing any of them specifically. I do not sell any H2 products. I do not get paid to do any videos in any way, shape, or form. I do this purely because I have a habit of really taking deep dives into anything that's interesting to me, and so it just conjures up a lot of stuff that's research related that I'm more than happy to share with you guys. And lastly, so I don't have to say links below 50 times throughout the video, I just want to say up front that the links to almost everything I'm going to say today is in the video description. If you want to learn more, go down there, take a look at the links. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in this video, so let's go forward. First things first, in the last video I did talk about the healing effects of hydrogen as compared to C60. So here's a little bit more of an expansion of that health benefits of hydrogen. Encourage everybody just to pause the video, take a look at this, because there's 27 specific reasons here. This is courtesy of selfhack.com. The link, sorry, don't want to keep talking about the links, but the links are below, right? And so, but there in that link, there's specifically, they go into depth about each separate bullet. You notice the word that excuse me, you'll notice that the word may is in there a lot because there's a lot of research still going on, but the health benefits of hydrogen go back, decades and decades, and so there's just a lot of stuff that they've proven. There's a lot of stuff that they're still trying to prove, and it is seriously one of the most beneficial elements that you could take into your body that's straight out of nature, and so it's good stuff. Let's just assume it's good and move forward and just talk about what this video is about, which is the ways to intake hydrogen. How can you increase taking in hydrogen because it's so good for you, especially if you're taking C60 as well. And so let's just talk about that. And I also want to just point out, before we get too deep into this, that this video is not about there's special different ways that each single product works and so forth. I don't want to get that deep into it because literally if you go and just search on YouTube, you will find thousands of videos on hydrogen, and I really don't want to put out a redundant video. So this is just going to talk about the ways you do it. It's very high level. I'm not going to get too deep. I provide links if you want to get deeper into it, but this is simply high level, and this is definitely not a product review. We're not, comparing products to products. If that's something that you wanted, there's tons of videos out there for you. So go ahead and knock yourself out. Anyway, ways to intake hydrogen. There's 4 basic ways from my deep dive into it. You can breathe it, drink it, eat it, and absorb it. It's just that simple, so let's just start with the breathe it. Now, they have hydrogen inhalation machines, and the picture is courtesy of California Hydrogen Water, and you can see there's different models, and and the whole thing about breathing in hydrogen is that it is absolutely, hydrogen's good for you, breathing it in is good for you. There's actual studies out there that are looking at ways to give cardiac arrest patients hydrogen, and it helps them. Cerebral damage patients are getting hydrogen now, and there's all sorts of different reasons you would want to breathe it in from a vascular standpoint and getting it into your lungs. Like if I were to have a lung problem, I would definitely want to be doing inhalation of hydrogen. So it's a really good thing. There is a way to do it, but I just want to point out, it's a very pricey way to do it. If you want to bring in hydrogen into your body, you can look at these prices. They're not low, okay, and so it's for people who kind of have the money for it. It's also too, you're gonna put it's big. This thing's gonna sit next to your couch. You're gonna hook up. You're going to be sitting there for a long time. So it's not meant for the person that wants hydrogen on the run or take it to the office kind of thing. But definitely if you go to the links, I guess I can't get away from it. California Hydrogen Water actually has a full page of all sorts of different scientific material supporting inhalation of hydrogen. So if you want more, there's a whole page full of links that you can look at. And so definitely breathing it is one way, and it's one way that a lot of people go. The other way now is to drink it, and I think that this is the this is the 400-pound gorilla of hydrogen. It's the drinking part, whereas there's only like maybe a dozen different inhalation machines. When you talk about drinking hydrogen, it gets into the hundreds, and so I kind of just classified it in 5 simple ways to look at it. There's actually a video a guy did who's actually the maker of the UltraStream brand, and he did a video about the 11 ways you can get hydrogen, via hydrogen water. And so if watch that if you want all 11. I boiled it down for you to 5 because you're busy, you don't have time for that. But here you go. You've got these big machines. They sit on your countertop. They plug in. And I just want to let you know, of these 5 specific brands right here, I've had them all. I used to own these 2. I own these 2 now. I never did buy a countertop brand. I just kind of jumped straight over to portable. But this is the only one I haven't owned, so I'm talking from personal experience. I owned the Jupiter. I had that for about 4 years, owned this for a couple years, own this now, tried this. So, the whole idea is I'm very familiar with these things. I've lived with them. So a Jupiter brand basically is it connects to your faucet, and what this is going to be, and this is going to be the UltraStream and the Jupiter, they're water filters, and they produce H2, and they produce alkaline water. So if you want to get hydrogen, and you need those other features, or you have the money, they're not cheap, then obviously these are the 2 different ways. So this one is basically one that plugs in. It requires electricity. It does electrolysis, or it uses a different type of technology called a PEM, which is a proton exchange membrane. So there's 2 different ways. You can extract the H2 from the H2O, your water, and so those are the 2 ways that it does it, and it's using electricity. Now the UltraStream doesn't use electricity, and this type of filter is multiple. There's multiples of these, right, of these kinds, and they basically just do a chemical reaction, which is exactly the same reaction over here, sort of, okay, whereas you have tablets, you just drop it in water, and it's a chemical reaction between malic acid and magnesium and water, and it produces H2. Over here, it actually is inside the water filter itself has a layer of magnesium, and as the water passes through that magnesium, it creates a chemical reaction, a non-toxic chemical reaction that produces H2 and alkaline water. Boop, right out it comes. So that's how that one does it. So this one's more of a electrolysis or a PEM. This one's more of a chemical reaction. Now this type of countertop H2 water creator, maker, generator, or whatever you want to use as a word, that puppy does electrolysis, which is basically passing the water through 2 different charged metal plates, and it creates it separates out the H2 and the O. So you have H2 molecules, and then you have the free oxygen, the O molecule, which sticks to another O molecule, and you have oxygen. So you have oxygen bubbles. You see the bubbles coming out. The H2 is a molecule. You can't see it. When you see the bubbles, it's the oxygen bubbles and the H2, but it's more so you're looking at oxygen. But bottom line, though, it splits out the 2 to create oxygen and hydrogen, and then, of course, a lot of water because it's on a very small basis. But that's electrolysis in a nutshell. And so these things just, basically have a couple of charged plates down here, and the water bubbles up into there. And that's a countertop version, and this is the smaller version of that. Same thing, it does electrolysis to create the H2, and it's portable. It's a little tiny 12-ounce thing. And then there's H2 tablets, a chemical reaction, and I just described that. So that's the 5 ways to drink it. Now, I did kind of do a pros and cons template for you, table, and just to kind of walk through it, just again, I think it's really good because the main question I made this video for was somebody asked, can you walk through the different kinds of H2 water generators, and so that's what I'm trying to do. And so right now, here are the pros. So the thing about the Jupiter, and like I said, I own these guys, the thing about it, and the UltraStream, when I owned it, it was called the Alkaway. They filter the water. So you're buying 2 products now. You're buying a water filter, and you're getting an H2 generator. So, the good thing is the Jupiter is a pretty big little machine, not big little, a big machine. It sits on the countertop. It plugs into the electrical socket. You have to connect it to your faucet. So here's the thing about these 2 puppies. If you have a faucet, which I now have, I have one of those. You pull out the thing out of the faucet, and it ends up being a shower spray handle thing. You can't connect anything to that unless you go under the sink. So connecting it to your faucet is a challenge depending on what kind of faucet you have. And so if you have some fancy ass bronze thing you touch with your finger, you ain't going to connect this thing to it. You're going to have to get a plumber and connect it up underneath your countertop. So there's a little bit of an installation issue with both of these because they are attached to the faucet right there. So that's an issue, right? And then, but the good stuff is that the Jupiter is really fast. You turn that puppy on and boom, you're getting water out quick. With the UltraStream, that thing is slow. You try to fill up a 1 gallon jug with an UltraStream, you're going to be waiting a while, a lot longer than you would with the Jupiter, and that's kind of a con. So definitely something to think about. The good news is there's no electricity required. But the thing is, it's slow. And the thing about both of these guys is they're not cheap, okay? When I bought my Jupiter, I paid like $800 for it, but these puppies can go up to like $4,000, and they're not cheap. And then when the UltraStream, the Alkaway is running around $700, and then the key thing here is filters. These two things right here are the only things that generate H2 that you got to keep buying stuff for. It's that whole reoccurring revenue model that every merchant and vendor in the world wants. It's a cash cow down the road, like a printer. Ever buy a printer, right, for your computer? They basically give you the printer, and you have to pay for ink for the rest of your life. So it's the same thing here. You buy these guys and you keep paying and paying and paying, and the overall cost down the road is really quite expensive. I mean, these guys do not. It's like I think a Jupiter filter is like $95. UltraStream I think was $105. So and I own these things for years. So there's a long-term cost associated on top of the front end costs, and so they're very expensive, but they're good. They work. They're awesome products. So if you have the money, you have the counter space, blah blah blah, you can afford to have that thing installed, and hey, it's an alternative for people who want H2 out of the faucet at home, and that's a really important part. It's out of the faucet at home. You're not carrying this thing around. Now the Lourdes is like a Brita pitcher thing, right? It's going to sit on your countertop. It does take up a space, but it's got a smaller footprint. Not attached to anything. It's like a coffee maker. You fill up the tank. There's no filters in there. I mean, there's an actual tiny filter, but it's easy to clean. You don't have to pay gobs of money to keep the thing around for a while. So the pros are that it's fast. I mean, it works just as fast as any of the other electrolysis machines that are, basically portable, and you can carry it around. So if you were like to drink a lot of this stuff at work, you could take it to work, but it's going to take up some space, but you have to keep filling up the tank, and it does cost. And so here's the thing about this is I was like looking at these things before I bought my Kingdom one, and they were running around $300. I saw one that was $300 for a few months and then popped up to $500. I was like, that was a intense increase in price, but they do. You can still find them around $300 to $1,000. A Lourdes, this one specifically, this red puppy here, it's called the Lourdes, Lords. I'm not sure how they want to pronounce it. That puppy is $1,000. $1,000 for a pitcher. That's gonna, I don't know if you've got money. I'm not bathing in it, so to me that's a lot of money, and I'm not really gaming to spend that on a pitcher of it creates H2 water. So so I'm saying it is expensive, but the good news is there's no long-term costs, and from the videos and research I've done on this product, specifically this one, it's got some staying power. It's going to last for a while. Like I said earlier, this is a really obviously very important point. Is how long do these things last? So like I said, the Jupiter lasts about 4 to 5 years. The UltraStream lasts. Actually, I had the Alkaway before this one, and the only reason I don't still use the Alkaway is because they retired it and nobody sells the filters for it anymore. And they created this new brand called the UltraStream, and I did not want to upgrade because I had I just don't like having to buy filters. So now here's the thing: the Kingdom guy, which is this little puppy here, this little, it's literally it's bigger than a soda can. It's like that big monster can, That's as big as it is. So it's nice and portable. I love it. It's portable. There's no filter. I don't have to buy anything. I just got to charge it. It's a battery. It's really fast. 2 minutes and you've got hydrogen water. The cons. The battery life, I mean, this thing promises 27, charges per 27 uses per battery charge. I'm getting like half that, because I like to double charge the water. before I drink it. I like to get it really milky colored, and so I give it 2 times every time I drink it. So I pretty much use it about 7 times, which is 14, before I got to plug it into the wall again. So the battery is not what they promise. It's cheaper. It's plastic. I did get it off Amazon because the one thing about these things, and you do all the reading on these things, and you're going to find out that everybody warns you off of buying no brand name ones from China on eBay. Okay, that's just like nobody wants to do that. So that's what I mean when you can get it down to, you can get a $40 one, or they go up to $300. They can get pricey. The recommendations are, do not buy one from China that's manufactured in China, and if it's $30, then you can pretty much imagine how cheap the parts are. But the best ones are the ones that have been making them for decades. I mean, the Asians have been so into this for so long. I mean, we're talking 70s and stuff that they started making these things. So the best ones are from Japan and South Korea. And so I bought this little Kingdom off of Amazon because it had really good reviews. I'm using it. I love it. But I know this thing, I can just look. It's not going to last very long. And so I just know it, because I think the battery's probably not going to be able to keep a charge after a while. So I'm thinking I'm going to get about 6 months good use out of it. So I just went ahead and bought a new one for $93. It's a South Korean one off of Amazon. And a Twitter friend of mine had bought one and showed it off on Twitter, and it was like really super nicely packaged, all metal and glass. I mean, you could tell the quality was there, and it's like $93. And so he's got this really good one, and I had H2 water generator envy, and so I just had to order mine so that when mine dies, I'll have a backup. But I have a feeling I'll probably just switch to using it. And they also, that was $93, right? And then they go up to $300. The last one is the H2 Viva. That's the tablets. That's the actual tablets, the concepts of tablets. Now, it's quite simple. They just they compress magnesium and malic acid using a binder, and they create tablets like you would take a vitamin. And there's usually 30 to 60 tablets per bottle, and you buy these little bottles, and then you need to get either a metal bottle or a glass bottle. You fill it up with water, and you drop a tablet into the water and seal it up. The tablet dissolves, and when it dissolves, it does exactly what you would see. You see all the bubbles coming up, and it releases H2, it releases O1, and then O1 becomes O2, and then the bottle gets basically compressed. As you know, the whole thing about H2 and getting it into water is through pressure. And so with the bottle sealed, like when you use this guy, it's sealed. When you use this guy, it's sealed. You drop a tablet in a bottle, top it off, seal it tight. It's sealed, and it creates pressure, and that pressure in there is what infuses that H2 into the water. And so that's really it. It's just using tablets, and when using tablets, the good stuff about it, the pros, it's very portable. I mean, carrying this little bottle around, it's super easy, and you actually get extra magnesium, because what happens is the magnesium is in a powder form, and as the H2 is created, and the malic acid and the magnesium and the water react, you get this film of magnesium on the very bottom of the bottle. You drink the water, and it tastes a little metallic because that magnesium's in there, but you actually can take it's like a magnesium supplement water kind of thing when you drink it. But and then when you are done, after a while, the very bottom of the bottle builds up this film of magnesium, and it starts to oxidate and turns white, and you got to throw it out and get a new bottle. So that's kind of what I mean over here, where you frequently, after you get new bottles, I use I just keep like a kombucha bottle, the aluminum beer bottles, any kind of bottle that can seal really well. So I usually use a glass kombucha bottle for mine. And the thing about it, though, is it is slow. You have to wait 20 minutes minimum before you can drink it. And so, whereas if I use my Kingdom, it's 120 seconds. It's super fast, And so when you pour cold water in there and you want a cold glass of water, you can do it with Kingdom, or I'm sorry, just the concept of a portable. But when you use the tablets, I pour my cold water in it, I put the tablet in it, I seal it off, and I stick it there on my desk, and I'm working. Timer goes off 20 seconds, and the water already got kind of warm. It's not cold anymore. And so it takes to me, 20 minutes is a long time to wait to get a drink. When I'm thirsty, I want a drink, right? So it's slow. And then, the bottles. And then, but the thing about it, though, if you catch a good sale, you can get it down to $30 a bottle, or 7 or 6 up to 60. It's it blows my mind how expensive these things are. But a little bottle of pills, little tablets, will cost you $60, and so that's it's an alternative, right? So it is one of the 5 ways to drink it. And just to kind of give you an idea, I kind of like walked away from this guy and this guy. As they died off, I didn't want to do it. I don't want anything this big. And what I've really come to learn and love is that I use this portable guy because I'm on the move. I mean, where do we spend our most time in life? It's either asleep or at work, right? And so I'm at work. I keep this puppy in my bag. I take it to work with me. I use it like a minimum 5 times a day, just drinking my water at work, and then I bring it back home on weekends with me. I keep the tablets because when this thing dies, or the battery doesn't have enough of a charge, it just starts to flash red at you, and so you're really thirsty. You want to make a glass, and that thing starts blinking, and you're like, great. I don't get to use it, so I can just I just kind of use this instead when this guy's down, and I got to charge it up. It does take quite a bit to charge, like about an hour or 2 or so, but I really favor these guys because they're really portable. I have a very portable life, and so I don't like hang out at the house. If you hang out at the house a lot, then you can go with one of these other puppies. I think that's logical. And so I just want to give you a comparison, though, from a cost standpoint. So I told you what the costs are on the various different machines and how they work and what's good and bad about them from my personal opinion. But I just wanted to give you just this little cost reality check because it's a huge deal from a cost per serving standpoint. And I'm just looking at generators versus tablets, okay? Just the portables and just the tablets. So I'm just comparing those two. This puppy costs $70, and I'm going to guess it's going to last 6 months before the battery just ain't going to keep up with it anymore. And so I do about 5 times a day, 5 days a week, so 100 servings a month. So it really comes out to 12 cents a serving, a 12-ounce, gulp and serving of H2 water, and it's cost me 12 cents a serving. But when you start doing tablets, it's $40 a bottle roughly. Right now, I just looked at the prices, and so that comes out. If I wanted to do, and it's, you need one tablet per serving now, and I've actually read studies where people have gone up to 3 tablets per bottle to really get a strong level of H2 in that bottle, but just at 1 tablet a bottle, that's 67 cents per serving. So you can see the huge cost difference between tablets and generators. So that's something to consider. And by the way, the reason I got into tablets was I just wanted to check them out, and I wanted to try it out. And I kind of hanged on to the bottle because, like I said, when this battery dies, I got this as my backup. So with all that said about drinking water, there's a lot more information, where. And then I do want to touch on one little idea here is this thing about whenever you get into the drinking hydrogen water thing, everybody's got to whip out their ppm, which is the parts per million of H2 infused into the water argument. And every machine has that ppm. It's kind of like trying to buy anything else. That's their common denominator and how they judge the machine. So these 2 guys are going to run anywhere from 0.6 to 1.0 ppm. There is a way to use tablets to get a much higher ppm, but that's not the focus of this video. But I just wanted to point out that they're pretty much the same. And then here's one thing too. This is parts per million. So when you're shopping around and someone says, ooh, my product can do 1.5, and the other guy goes, ooh, my product can do 1.6. You know what? That's okay. 0.000006 versus 0.000005. I mean, really, that's not a lot of a difference. So I really, it's just kind of crazy when they, try to get comparison on that level. You just really want to get hydrogen in. Anything under, if it's not at least 0.6, then don't bother with the product. I don't think anyone even sells one that does that. But that's kind of the whole ppm thing, and I don't get too deep into it. You can if you want, blah, blah, blah. Oh, anyway, when I first started looking at getting tablets just to try them out, as you probably can guess, I did a tablet pricing guide. So the most I think it's I came up with 7 different products that I could find, priced them out just like I did the C60 pricing guide, and you know where it is. You can go find it. Okay, now next, eat it. You can eat hydrogen, and you eat hydrogen all the time. You're already doing it. You don't even know you're doing it. Every single thing you eat has hydrogen in it. Because why? And everything you drink, it's got water in it, H2O, right? And your body breaks it down, you get hydrogen. So there's hydrogen everywhere. We're always taking in, but the idea here is you want to take in a lot more because it's healthier for you. So you want to take in higher concentrations of hydrogen for your own health benefit, etc. So when you do some research on the hydrogen content in foods and in the things that we consume, one of the most important, not more important, but the thing you focus in on is the hydrogen ion concentration in comparison to pH, right? And so what I started looking at was like, okay, well, what's the best foods to eat to get hydrogen? And as I mentioned in my last video, is apples, right? And so apples is the main thing that people recommend, and it's true. It actually has, and the reason is because of its acidity. So what I'm trying to point out is H2 concentration, H2 ion concentrations have a direct correlation to pH, acid or alkaline. And so what it really is, as this chart can show you, is that when you take a look at the pH level of any type of concentration, then you can take a look at the amount of hydrogen ions that are within that solution, and so, or that food, specifically food. And so what the H2 stands for, this is a micromole per liter. So if you start out really high, start out with a really high pH of 7, well, not high, that's actually, our bodies run around 7.5. So at a 7.0 pH, the micromoles per liter are 0.10, and then as you get lower and lower down the pH scale, you get all the way down to like say 3 or something, it's 1,000 micromoles per liter. Okay, so what that means is that the lower the pH, i.e. the more acidic something is, the higher the amount of hydrogen ion concentrations will be in that thing. So really found, what was one of the funny things in the research was I actually found a paper from 1919, okay, 99 years ago. There was people studying hydrogen ion concentrations in food and studying the pH of foods, right, and in relationship to that. And that's amazing, and that's how far back, people have been studying this kind of stuff. And so I just grabbed, their pH tab, link below, obviously, but I grabbed the tables in the document that kind of listed the different kinds of foods and what their pHs are. So what are you looking for? You're looking for things that have very, very low pH, because that means it's got more hydrogen. So here you go. You've got like, if you look at apple juice, right, 5.02 pH. So it's acidic because balance is 7.5. So anything under 7.5 is acidic. Anything over is alkaline. So right there, that obviously apples fall on the list. But over here, let's take a look at other stuff. I mean, lemons 2.2. I mean, there's sour, grapefruit, oranges, rhubarb, strawberries. All these things have it on the acidic bent, right? And they have a high concentration of hydrogen. So if you want to know how to eat it, go for things that are sour, and go for things that are acidic, and don't eat too much, by the way, but that's what you would want to eat if you want to consume more hydrogen. Now lastly, absorb it. This is my crazy idea. I didn't find this anywhere. It's just something that occurred to me because all of the things that I've researched in my lifetime, I actually did a really super deep dive on ozone therapy at one point. And I actually own all of the equipment. I can actually generate medical grade ozone. I have all these ozone generators, waters and air, and you name it. So I really did a deep dive. But part of ozone therapy is, getting an ozone generator, sitting in the tent. It's oxygen therapy / ozone therapy, and you sit in a tent, right? And you absorb it through your skin. Because why? What's the biggest organ of your body? It's your skin. It's the biggest organ you own. And so one of the best ways to take in anything is to absorb it. Just straight through your skin, like doing a clay bath. So I thought, well, hey, this would actually be a fourth way if you really wanted to. And then I can't imagine me doing this, but hey, everybody is different, right? So honestly, this tent right here costs $695. You'd have to buy the H2, get a tank. So you go down to your local Gas Pro or whatever. That's what we call it here in Honolulu. We have a thing called a Gas Pro, and you go there, any kind of thing you want that's a gas. The tank probably costs like $50. Fill it up, who knows? But the whole idea is you buy a tank, hook it up to this thing, get the tubing, and just sit there with your little helmet and you sit and absorb it through your skin. Now, obviously, that would be the most absolutely inconvenient way to do it, but it is absolutely feasible. It is absolutely positive. Your spouse will think you're crazy, but you can do it. So it is the fourth way to absorb more hydrogen into your body. Okay, so there we go. The 4 different ways to absorb hydrogen and how to take in more because it's good for you. Now, so with that said, first question always comes to mind when you're talking about this kind of stuff is, which way is better? So, I just want to share with you. This is really interesting stuff that I ran across. I was taking a look at, there's this site called the Molecular Hydrogen Foundation, and it's this org started by a gentleman right here. His name is Tyler LeBaron. And it's just fascinating. If you're into hydrogen and you want to learn more about hydrogen, I mean anything about hydrogen from a scientific standpoint, this is a go-to site. And so I was looking at and watching one of the interviews that he had done with a Dr. Shigeo Ota, who had basically this doctor's paper, I think it was 2005, on hydroxyl radicals and hydrogen. He did a paper, and the paper became really, really famous, and it really kind of kicked off this whole thing. It got published in Nature, I guess, scientific journal, and it really kind of kicked off the big Japanese thing about hydrogen. So he was kind of like that guy, right? And so anyway, so Tyler's like interviewing them, and this is a transcript right off of YouTube, so it's not bad grammar, it's what the transcript said, it's copy and paste. So what Tyler's doing in this video, I've obviously linked below, in this video, he specifically asked Dr. Ota, basically, is the effect of drinking hydrogen water better than inhibition of hydrogen gas in your animal experiments? And then he repeats his question. You later found that actually drinking hydrogen-rich water is more effective. And Dr. Ota says, yes, that's right. And then he goes on to say it was a really strange finding that he had spent a lot of money for making, this is broken Japanese or broken English, right? For making equipment for hydrogen gas, but it was in vain, and I lost a lot of money for research. These are all quote in quotes, exactly what he says in the interview. So, wow. So there you go, because I had the same question when I started this little journey of hydrogen, which is, should I put out the 2500 and buy the inhalation machine? Should I get the generator? Should I, what do I want to do this. I want to do this, especially I want to do this with C60. And wow, this was a great find, because this guy is kind of like really the go-to guy. And he flat out says right here in his interview that he had done that experiment, he had done that study, and it was a waste of money for him. But I really want to quantify that specific study he was doing when he ran into this situation was specific to antioxidants, used hydrogens as antioxidant. I actually found that study. It's in the links. And so, it was a very specific study, so it didn't work for what he was looking for. It's kind of like the C60 rat study. They were doing a study to try to kill the rats, and they didn't kill them. They lived for it, and they learned new stuff because of what happened, but that wasn't the purpose of their study. So he wasn't really studying the specificity between gas and water, but that was kind of like a side effect of the specific study he was doing at the time. So that doesn't mean that it's not good for you to inhale. It's just that he had discovered that hydrogen water was better as an antioxidant than hydrogen gas. Okay, so that's really important. Not good, not bad. This is all science, right? So this is just a really interesting data point. Wanted to share that with you. Good stuff. So then one other side note before I conclude. Another interview with Dr. Shigeo Ota with an unknown interviewer. I was watching this, and it was kind of like, okay, same stuff. And then all of a sudden, at the 7.52 mark in the video, he starts talking about a mice study. And so for all of you guys that are really into C60, when I hear that there's, the rat study started all that off, right? Well, here's a guy who did a mice study using H2, and what he found, and you can go ahead and listen to this if you want to, but he found, this was his findings in his study of H2 and mice. And this is what's fascinating to me because of the C60 rat study and the issue of, why does C60 and H2 work so well together, right? So here it goes. He basically says, is that he discovered that when he was feeding high-fat diets to mice, they would die a younger age than they're supposed to. And then he would feed high-fat diets to mice and then give them H2, and it prolonged their lives. But what it did was, it didn't make them live longer than their normal life like the C60 did to rats. It just allowed them to live a normal life as measured against humans. So that is a fascinating data point. When you take that finding with H2 and mice and compare that finding with the C60 and rats, it really starts to kind of like shed the light on why these two things work so well together. But it also kind of closes the window on wondering whether H2 has the same effect of C60 on life extension, or actually C60 in olive oil, to be specific. So a lot of really interesting stuff. I just love learning, and this is so cool to me. So anyway, I thought you would like to know that. Otherwise, hey, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for my, supporting my videos. You guys are so kind. I just really appreciate it. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate when you guys say thanks. It's a lot of work, but I just really enjoy sharing. And lastly, before I go, I just want you to tell you that the next time that life gives you lemons, eat them. They're good for you. They have hydrogen. Have a great day. Aloha.